It's showtime. What's up, good people, and welcome to the Frank Harris Show, the biggest, the best, and the greatest show around. And we have a new guest on the show today. My boy, childhood friend, Harlem P.
Yo,
Yo, P,
yo,
what's
yo,
up, baby?
man. What's going on, man? Thank you so much for inviting me, man. Miss you, man. Long time.
Yes,
Me,
P.
but I'm glad
So,
we
P,
got Fordham to get back into it.
Yo, P, this is awesome because we grew up doing this, right? So it's amazing now to be able to do it for the fans and for the people out there. We grew up debating sports, right? Talking ball, talking football, basketball, baseball, boxing. So amazing to have this platform where we can continue and do it from this perspective, P. So listen, let's get right into it, my
Yes, sir.
brother.
Yes,
Let's get
sir.
into the NBA right now, okay? We got, Pete, let me ask you this question, Pete, right off the gate. What do you feel about the competitiveness in the league? Right, you see teams getting blown out by 50 in the playoffs. You see Anthony Edwards. Denver's our defending champions. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
I couldn't imagine Michael Jordan getting blown out by 45 points. Right, Jokic is supposed to be the best player in the world. Listen, Game 6 closeout opportunity in Minnesota. Right, Minnesota's down. You just beat them 3 games in a row, P, and you lose by 50.
Yeah, I think the game is so much faster now. Teams have so many more offensive possessions, and the 3-point shot is such a weapon. I think leads can get out of hand quick. Where in our day we grew up, it might be a 20-point lead, but now guys are capital like they're going from 20 to 30, 30 to 35, 35 to 40. And you've seen it happen a few times. A few teams got smacked this
That's what
postseason.
I'm saying. Look at the Indiana Knicks game. The same thing.
Yeah,
Right? I
yeah,
mean, Indiana, it's amazing that these teams are allowing themselves to be blown out, P. But
right.
but on that note, who you got winning those 2 series? Right? Who you got winning the Knicks series and who you got winning the the other series, the
So,
Denver Minnesota.
I got the Knicks winning Indiana because the Indiana has yet to play big ball. For whatever reason, they're playing small, just like the Knicks are playing right in the Knicks' hands. You got Miles
Right.
Turner shooting threes. He should be in the post, getting 20 and 20 every game. I mean, he's out here floating around on the 3-point line, shooting threes. They're not taking advantage of their overall size. They're playing small ball, and the Knicks are outplaying them on that level. So I definitely got the Knicks beating the pace. I don't know why
But,
Indiana's
P, why but listen, that's today's NBA. Like why Miles Turner is a prototypical NBA kind of big man today, right? You screen and look at Carl Anthony Towns. All these big guys are shooting threes now, right? I mean, the old big man that went in the post and posted up. I mean, Jokic is relatively unique from that perspective because he's a guy that still posts up. But P, that's what they want today. They want guys to screen and pick and pop and shoot threes.
But I
So
think you
when you
got to
say
play
Turner should go, that's
situational.
not what he does.
You right, but I think you got to play situational basketball, especially in playoffs. If you Miles Turner and the guy guarding you is 6'6", 6'7", it got to be a point in time where you're like, instead of me picking and popping out, I'm gonna pick and roll, or I'm gonna start mid post at the very least, get him in foul trouble, get to the line. But I mean, I think Miles Turner's averaging 3 foul shots a game, so he's not even.
But
Not even
Pete, that's the coach. That's the coach, though.
that is a
The coach
coach.
got to call the play, right? I mean, this is my issue with Darvin Ham with the Lakers. At some point, you're right. Maybe when you get the mismatch, coaches need to do a better job of putting their players in position and making adjustments, right? So Rick Carlisle, who's, by the way, the 5th highest paid coach in the NBA with Indiana, these guys have to put these guys in position to be successful, right? And I feel like few guys do that, P. But let's jump now to the other series with Dallas and OKC. You think Dallas is going to pull that off? OKC, what are your thoughts on that series?
I think Dallas is going to close them out. I think OKC blew a chance the last game. I think they had an opportunity to go ahead. I think Dallas, obviously, with the veteran leadership, and still Kyrie Irving has yet to have what do you call a nuclear Kyrie Irving game. I think
Yeah, not yet.
I
Yeah,
think
he was
he's going
okay early. First, maybe he had Luca when Luca was down the first game or two, and Luca said, "I'm letting Kyrie down." Kyrie had a couple of games early on. Now, in the last 3 games, not as great. But maybe the first game, I think he may have played okay, but not
yeah,
great.
yeah. So I think if he has a nuclear game, it's over because I do think. Listen, OKC has played well. Shea is 30, and you put 30 on the books with him. What happens now? I don't think Jalen Williams has been as explosive as he's been in the other past series and also in the regular season. I think he's been a little iffy. And you're not relying on Shaq, which is a rookie, so it's hard to rely on him
No, he's
consistently.
not. And P, he's one of those big men that's shooting threes, right? Like
Right.
you watch him play, he barely posts up. I mean, he's a guy that's shooting threes. P, two things you just brought up I want to talk about, okay? Jalen Williams is showing you that inexperience matters when it comes to the playoffs because he's not been great, right?
Right.
He's disappeared, right?
Mm-hmm.
This is when you talk about, and Luka has carried a team. Remember when they beat the Chris Paul, when Chris Paul, Devin Booker, and Ayton were together with the Suns, everybody thought they were going to win the championship that year, and Luka single-handedly destroyed them.
Right.
Right. And so Luka's playoff experience, Kyrie obviously has a championship. And so it's interesting to see a young OKC team, guys like Jalen Williams, struggling a bit. So P, on that note about OKC, I got a question for you. Okay. Comparison. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
You know who he reminds me of offensively, and you're gonna think it's crazy me saying this with the one-on-one game?
Cool.
Allen Iverson.
Yeah. You know, I can see that because people forget AI was a massive get into his spot.
Yes.
Iverson's mid-range game was unbelievable. I mean,
yes.
We see the highlights of him crossing over, getting to the rim, but literally 40% of his scoring came from the bop, get you off balance, get to a spot, let it go. He was an unbelievable mid-range shooter. And Shai, you know, you take that and then you put a 6'7" frame. His shot can be blocked. He's a great ball handler. He's slender, so he gets the way he wants to go. He gets to a spot. I mean, he's just an unbelievably gifted offensive player. This is so funny. I did not see this with him early. I remember when he was in Kentucky, he was the 4th-rated guard, the player out of that recruiting class. And midway through the season in Kentucky, Kyle started giving him the ball, and you saw like, wow, okay, this kid is pretty good. And now it's just, you know, he's definitely a first-team All-NBA player. For the, you know,
I think P, I think if you going that far back, I think he was a late addition to their haul of players, right? I think he was a guy that they offered later, and he signed with Kentucky later, I think, in the recruiting cycle, if I'm not mistaken. And by the way, look, no one saw it. Let's not forget, he was drafted first by the Clippers, right? And the Clippers traded him.
How bad
right?
was that?
So no one saw it. But P, I got a question for you now. Now, we're watching him play.
Mm-hmm.
Great one-on-one player, great individual player. Okay. Mm-hmm. Is he a guy, P, that is going to be more like Carmelo Anthony? Let me tell you what I mean when I say that. Okay. A guy that doesn't impact the game as much as you hope he would. Great player, scores a whole bunch of points. I'm going to get mine, gets his, but does he impact the game and make players around to better? Because that's all the great players do, P. Mm-hmm. Right? I don't like Kobe. Right, but you go Jordan, Kobe. If you name all of the great players, Shaq, well, not Shaq. Shaq's a great player, but Kobe, Shaq too. Jordan, right? Bill Russell. Bill Russell. We talking about all-time greats, Magic, Bird, right? MVP. Even in the NBA today, you look at a guy like Jokic. Now, my question to you, P, is he going to be a guy like Melo? Because Melo was a guy that got his, but his teams didn't win. You think Shai's going to be able to elevate the players around him?
Well, let's look at it now. Shai has won this year. They went from a 30-plus team win last year to 57. The team is very united. They love each other. There's no jealousy. You have a player, Jalen Williams. Now, he's going to be his decision to stay or go. He has progressed. He's gotten better. Shaq has gotten better. So not only are they winning games, people are getting better on his watch. Even though he's a ball-dominant guy, it seems to not have an effect negatively on the other players. Where if you look at Carmelo's career, even though Carmelo was a cool teammate,
right,
his productivity didn't lead to winning, right?
Well, but I mean, that's debatable, right? Like, let's say early Carmelo Anthony. I mean, those Denver Nuggets teams, I think they get out of the first round before.
Yeah,
right?
They did.
Right. So right now, Shai just and that was early in his career. Shai is just getting out the first round, right? I mean, they didn't get out. They're not winning the second round game. We assume a second round series. So I mean, you know, let's not be preliminary. And the Knicks with Melo, they made some runs where they won, you know, a series or two as well, right? So listen, I want to see if the guy wins. P, give me some conference championship runs, like even a guy like Tatum. Tatum has gotten, you know, and we'll talk about Tatum later. But give me when you talk about the elite players of the NBA. Because Shai now is in that conversation. I mean, some people thought he was the MVP this year, P. Can he be the MVP when he's not making the players around him better at the highest level, right? Winning at the highest level. And
Right.
they won in the regular season, but I'm talking about the playoffs, speed.
Right. I think, I'd like to your point. I think we're anointing people too early before they prove anything. We'll have to see. I think he's proven himself this series, this playoff run. He played phenomenal the first series. He's played great this series. Let's see how it goes. And let's see if that, what we have to do, I think, is basketball old heads. Basketball is played a different way now. It's much more ball dominant, less player movement. There's not the high assist guy like in our era. You're not going to have a guy, I think, anymore averaging 13, 14 assists, that type of guy. I think guys now are impacting the game more where they score, they suck the defense in, and they let lesser players that maybe don't have the one-on-one ability shoot open threes or hit shots. And I think that's the way you win. Everything now is with your dominant guy, and you build around that guy. You let that guy operate, and then you have the other guys being, playing their role.
Yo, P, but listen to this, though, right? When you talk about, again, going back to Shea, right? He was an MVP caliber player, but more people feel like Anthony Edwards is the next guy, not him. And it's because the way Anthony Edwards seems to elevate the play of the players around him, right? He has the big personalities, bigger than New York's bright lights, but which be careful, Minnesota, trying to keep him in Minnesota. Right? Trying to keep him in Minnesota. Mm-hmm. But, you just wonder. So that's my wonder about Shea, right? I wonder if he's.
It seems like they really love each other, though. I mean, that team, I think Anthony's personality is a little more rambose, but both teams get together, right? Both teams are highly connected. The question for Minnesota, and I think maybe it's been answered, is Cat willing now to accept he's the second best player on the team?
Nah, he been still said that. I mean, he accepted that, man. Come on,
you know with that? Okay, because he's always been one to want to be bigger than what he thought he was.
So, Pete, now let's go in the East, right? Again, you talk about Boston. They beat Cleveland. Boston beat Cleveland. That was a joke. Donovan Mitchell felt like he quit on his team, which I hate to say that, but whatever. But anyway, Boston beat Cleveland. First of all, do you think Donovan Mitchell gets traded next year or he resigns with Cleveland?
No, he's out of there.
Okay, so they got to get rid of him, get some picks, get some stuff.
He doesn't want to be there. I mean, he doesn't want to be there. I mean,
so where's he going? Lakers?
I think he's going to go to a big market. I think the Knicks are going to be in play. I think
the Knicks can't take him because he won't fit with Brunson.
Yeah.
Him and Brunson, that's a bad fit.
I think Brunson plays that way because he has to play that way. Brunson,
but that's who he is now, though, right? And it feels better to play this way because he's the talk of the town now. You ain't gonna change now.
Is that sustainable? Playing through a 6'1", great shot maker, one of the best shot makers.
That's what he is, though. If you ask him, do you want to go back to a distributor? He ain't gonna want to do that. Look at all the attention he's getting.
But the way they win through him, he has to be so ball dominant for them to get a win.
And Mitchell's only 6'2", probably.
Right, but
that's a small backcourt.
I just don't know if that's just, I don't know for the long term for the Knicks if the way they play constructed now is sustainable to win long term. They put in too much.
I agree with that, right? I mean, this is another conversation, but I don't think you can win with a little point guard. The closest you got was Isaiah, and then you could say you won through Steph Curry, who was a 6'3" guy that was more of a shooter, and they moved the ball. I mean, I don't know that they play through Curry in a more traditional NBA sense, right? It's a lot of ball movement, but Curry's the guy. But It's really hard to win with a small guy that's driving the ball to the hole because you know what? It's tough to get fouls, and it's just hard to shoot well from the perimeter all game long, whereas bigger guys can get to the basket, get fouled, get offensive rebounds. It's a whole different realm when you run through bigger guys, right?
Absolutely.
And so that's going to be tough. But, Pete, along those lines, I was talking about the Boston series. You now got Boston coming up probably with the Knicks if the Knicks win, okay? And at one point, you thought Boston was the best team in the NBA, okay? Do the Knicks have a chance in your mind in terms of playing against Boston?
They have a chance to get 2 games, but when Boston wants to put the clamp down, they've been the most dominant team this year. I'm not really that impressed with Boston. I do like the addition of Jrue Holiday. For whatever reason, I know everybody's on a Tatum bandwagon. I think he's very talented, but I've seen so many times where he's been very quiet. Jaylen Brown is very talented, but I don't think he's skilled enough to go through all the time for him to carry you, right? So I think Jrue Holiday has added some sort of some consistency, some reliability, White is playing out of his mind. I mean, he hasn't missed a three since 2 months ago, it seems like. I mean, he's playing very well. I think they're constructed very nicely for a team. But it just, I don't know, Tatum, I love him, but I don't know. It's just something missing for me to be like, that's the guy.
So, Pete, who you got? So, who's the best team in the NBA then? I'm asking you. Is it Denver? Is it Minnesota? It's not the Knicks, right? Or is it Boston? Who's the best team in the NBA?
I think the best team is Denver. I mean, they got mollywop last night, right? So it's hard to say that. But when you look at a team that's constructed, every piece fits. They have a very capable point guard. Jamal Murray is very good. They got a really good shooter, defender. Obviously, they got
so you got them beating Boston in the chips.
Yeah, because they don't have an answer for Nikola. They don't have an answer for him. I mean, at the end of the day, Aaron Gordon, Jaylen Brown.
But let me ask you a question. Like, nobody don't got an answer for Jokic, but Al Horford, big guy, experienced, big guy, a lot of playoff success in general. And then if Porzingis is back, another big body that plays good defense. So you got two big bodies, and we've seen that Jokic can struggle at times against guys that are bigger, right? Those are two guys that are big, physical. We saw him struggle against Dwight Howard and McGee when the Lakers won in the bubble. We saw even this series against Minnesota, a couple of games, he struggled a bit against the two bigs. If, again, with a healthy Porzingis, with Porzingis and Horford, is that enough?
Oh, yeah. They're constructed to beat anybody. I mean, they got a huge backcourt. I mean, Drew Holiday is 6'5". White is 6'6".
You be exaggerating. Drew Holiday ain't no 6'5", bro. Come on, bro.
How tall is Drew Holiday? 6'4", 6'1.5"? He taller than you?
6'4". No, he's 6 for P. Come on, P. Just like you said, Shea Gilgeous-Alexander earlier was 6'7". He's 6'6". Yo, P, come on, man. Y'all got to check your facts, P. You got to get your combine numbers up. Man is 6'6". Shea Gilgeous-Alexander 6'6", P. And the boy Drew Holiday is 6'4", best case scenario.
He's 6'4".
Come on, stop giving.
White is 6'5", 6'6". White is big.
White, there's nothing 6'6" about White. P, come on, bro.
How tall is he? How tall is he?
You exaggeration. Let me get my Google out. Derek White height. Nah, bro. Come on, bro.
How tall is he?
Derek White height, bro. Come on, bro. I got to get Google out of you, man. I'm Google. Just so you know. They call me Google. 6'4", bro. Come on, bro. They call me Google.
White ain't 6'4". White is taller than that.
No, he's not, bro. Come on, bro. Stop exaggerating your numbers, bro.
Maybe when he had hair, he looked a little tall. Okay, but they're constructed to beat anybody. I mean, they got a great backcourt, they got a huge front line, and they got dynamic wings, right?
And they got a bench, right? They got a bench. That's what's gonna hurt the Knicks, right? At some point, they got guys coming off the bench that come and bring energy, intensity, who can play as well. So
they're still small though. Yeah, and they got a. One thing I like about Boston's coach, I don't know too much about the X's and O's, but he makes them accountable.
Nah, people, to me, that's the Achilles heel. See, I think the coach is the Achilles heel. The experience, right? Like if you watch them play, P. If you watch them play, P. Offensively, they don't move the ball. The balls, what they become is one-on-one players. Tatum is my goal. Brown is my goal. Shooting jump shots. No creativity offensively. And again, inexperience, right? I mean, that guy was an assistant coach. Udoka had the issue where they fired him, obviously. The guy was like 34 years old when he got the job. Pete, you can't underestimate playoff experience when it comes to coaching at the highest level. And so when you watch them play, this is why you see them struggle. They should be by far the best team in the East. But they struggled, man. Yeah, they struggle at times. But when you watch them play, Pete, offensively, they get so stagnant. They don't move the ball. They shoot threes. And so I think he's the Achilles heel. Now, can they win notwithstanding having an inexperienced coach? I do think that guy is a guy that could be like Spoelstra in a few years, right? But he didn't have an opportunity to develop. He seems like he's a lifer. He played, right? He seems like he's a hardworking guy. It seems like he says all the right things and has the right message, right? But the guy just needed more experience. So I don't know, P. And by the way, P,
what's up?
That makes me transition. Real quick. Talk about coaches, the importance and not importance of coaching. P. And we switching a little bit here, P. Okay. The 4 highest paid coaches in the NBA, right? You got Spoelstra, just got $120 million over 8 years, right? You got Popovich, they got, I think, 5-year, $80 million. You got Monty Williams, who got $78.5 million, I believe it was. And you got Steve Kerr.
Okay.
Right? Who's making about $9.5 million a year.
Right.
4 highest paid coaches in the NBA. Right, P?
None of them.
Let me ask you this question, P.
Mm-hmm.
At some point, I don't want to be mean, right? But when do guys have to have accountability? All 4 of those teams are out of the playoffs.
Well,
and some of them didn't even make the playoffs.
You're right. 3 of those deals are lifetime deals, right?
Well, hold on, P. Hold on. When you say 3 of them are lifetime deals, I don't know, like, what does that mean?
Well, I'm going to explain it. Basically, you're paying them both for past production.
I know what it means, Pete. Let me tell you, I know what it means, Pete. Let me let you talk. But I know what it means, Pete. But when we do that, you don't give players lifetime deals.
You don't. You don't.
Right. So you pay, and by the way, you were paid handsomely when we were winning, right? Mm-hmm. Now the team sucks. When the team sucks, right now, Klay Thompson is in trouble, right?
Yeah.
They're not going to play. They're not going to give him a max deal because of what he did in the past.
No. You're right.
So you tell me you paying guys for what they did in the past. Listen, Pat Riley need to hold Spoelstra accountable. You got $120 million. We're trying to get to the promised land, P.
He needs to hold him accountable. The reason why the GM for Golden State left, because he didn't want to deal with this. He didn't want to have to deal with her. He didn't want to deal with cutting Klay. He didn't have to deal about moving on from Draymond, so he quit.
Yes, P. He didn't want to be the guy that broke up the dynasty.
Right.
You're right, P.
Situation because he runs the show. So he's not going anywhere until he decides to leave. That's his franchise. He runs that franchise from top to bottom.
Sure.
And Monty Williams.
And by the way, and I don't know why, because they suck for how many years, right? You know, they had to run with Tim Duncan and those guys how many moons ago, and they've been horrible for a lot of years. And the NBA, we all know, lottery-wise, the NBA gifted them Wembanyama. That wasn't a lottery. They gave them Wembanyama. We know what that was.
That's like when LeBron went to Cleveland.
Right. D Rose went to Chicago.
Right.
Patrick Ewing went to the Knicks. They gifted him. They gifted at the pop, right?
Right.
But look, P, right now the Golden State Warriors are done, right? And Kerr is supposed to be the guy, right? It's the end of the world as we know it,
right?
In terms of them, Mike, and so P, they don't look close to being a championship contender anymore. Okay. Sports just got the $120 million recently. They don't look like close to a championship contender team either.
No,
right?
No. And what's hurting them is they'll never be bad to be able to get a top 5 pick. So what they're going to have to rely on is either free agency.
Free agent. If people want to come to Miami, ask Damian Lillard. Ask Dame Dollar.
Yeah. Or home.
People don't want to come here, P.
Home development like they've done with Duncan. They've done with a few of those players where they've just actually gotten better under the Miami Heat umbrella. But to your point, that's going to be a contract in 3 years. It's going to be bad money spent. And I think the same thing for Kerr.
That's the problem. So, P, so now we said Golden State don't look like a playoff team. Popovich got $80 million. I mean, old school. I mean, Popovich is doing stupid stuff. Look where they started at the point this year. They started a power forward at the point this year. Right?
Yeah, the kid from Baylor. I didn't get that. Why
the kid from Baylor. I think it's from Sweden and originally from Baylor, right?
Yeah,
I mean, you playing him at the point. Yeah, I mean, that was crazy, Pete. And then, so Wembanyama's great. The NBA will give them more players. They got all these picks, so the NBA will make them decent at some point. But just so you know, Pete, right? He'll be 3 years into that $80 million contract before they'll be decent, right?
Right.
Monty Williams.
I like Detroit. They would stay with the talent? You don't like Cade Cunningham in that backcourt?
Pete.
Hold up. I'm not talking about the record. Look at the talent and how they constructed. I think Cade Cunningham is a great player.
He's not a great player. He's a good number 2, not a number 1. He's a good number 2.
I disagree with you. I think Cade Cunningham is somebody you built on. I think somebody you built on. Well, he averaged about 20. He averaged low 20s this year. He played well. I mean,
low 20s as your number 1 guy. Most number 1 guys on good teams are getting 30, P. Low 20. I mean, below 20.
Well, let's see how much he averaged.
Come on, P.
Let me look it up. I like Cade Cunningham. I like Duran.
He's a good number 2. He's a Swiss Army knife. He could dribble. He could score a little bit. You know, he's a decent scorer.
Nah, you just counted him. You just count. Why don't you like him?
I mean, who said I didn't like him? I said he's a good number 2. That doesn't mean he's not good. Guys like Tatum, guys like Shea, guys like these guys getting like 30-ish.
So Cade numbers was 22.7. Let's round it up to
Right.
23.
That's not good enough for as a
5, 8 assists.
yeah.
And he shot 45% from the field.
Okay, those are okay stats, but not for a number one. What number one guy in the NBA on a good team got them stats? Maybe Jimmy Butler.
Mm-hmm.
Right? But Tatum averages probably 28, 20, 27, 28, 29 a game. Jokic, right? I mean, think about the top guys. Shea, right? Anthony Edwards averages more. Nah, bro, you tripping, dogs. I'm sorry, P, you tripping. But anyway, but by the way, hold on. Let's go back. You say you like how they constructed. So okay,
I like what they're doing. I like what they're doing. They have
who else you like? They drafted the German point guard who's a bum with a top 8.
That was before. That was the old regime. The kid they got off of, he wasn't good. They moved on. He's not on the
old regime. Troy Weaver drafted him. What do you mean?
He wasn't on the team. He's not on the team no more.
Well, that's a lottery pick. Who do you like?
They made a mistake. The
only two players I like on that team, I like Cade Cunningham if you have a number one, and I like the kid Jalen Durant.
I love him.
Jalen Durant. The kid from Philly.
You don't like Ivy? The two guard?
Well, again, he was a top 3 pick in the NBA draft. I mean, right now, best case scenario, he needs to be a guy off your bench who plays defense and plays hard. Right? He's a poor man, Drew Holiday. Intangible guy, hustle guy. He's a poor man, Drew Holiday.
You don't like Michael Stewart as a glue guy?
Isaiah Stewart,
yeah. Little on the size.
$84 million.
No, he gave him $84 million?
They gave me bro. Come on, bro. $84 million. Is the worst GM. $84 million. And by the way, when you say you like him, then they bought in Wiseman, bum. They bought him, and then they also bought in Bagley.
Yeah, they got off of Bagley.
Right. I mean, so when you say you like what they're doing, and even those teams, if we like them, Durant is decent. The big kid. Cade Cunningham is cool, but when you say decent, I mean, you said you like what they're doing.
Everything got a starting point, bro. They're not. Of course, they're not one of the top echelon teams right now.
But when you are they in the middle of the pack? What do you mean?
No. But
what you like? What you like about the worst record in the NBA?
Like I said, I like the back. I like the guy that got the ball, that dominates the ball. The guy you put the ball in hand is a great player. I like Cade Cunningham a lot. Right, so you got a good start there. You got an athletic big that defends and rebounds. He has to work on his offensive game.
Good player.
I like Ivy a little more than you. I think he needs to slow down a little bit, become a little bit more consistent perimeter shooter. But what he brings to the table, athleticism, aggressiveness, I think he's a good player. So I think
hold on. So let me be clear. You like him as a starting guard in the NBA because he brings aggressiveness.
No, I said that's one of the. No, he's athletic.
Athletic. Let me ask you a question.
Why is Hart starting for the Knicks? He's not overly talented. He's just super aggressive and play hard.
So let me ask that. Let me talk about two things. So your boy is A.V. Bradley all over again. That's who your boy Ivy is. That's A.V. Bradley.
He's more talented than A.V. Bradley. He's not the.
In what way? In what way? A.V. Bradley was a high-level pick, number 1 player in the nation in high school. Remember why?
A.V. Bradley was a great defensive player. He never translated his offensive game to the NBA. I think this kid
and your guy hasn't either.
Yeah, he averages more than
And Pete. And so your next question you asked me was what? I don't want to forget because I wanted to say that, but you said something about.
No, I was talking about you. You laughed at me when I set up the why that I like Ivy, what he brought to the table, and you say you like him because he's aggressive, and I'm saying there's a lot of guards that are starting. I mean, Jimmy Butler. Hold on. So let me tell you the problem. That's what I wanted to say because you brought up another player. You brought up Butler just now, but before then you brought up another. You said Josh Hart. Let me tell you why that's a horrible comparison in my opinion. E. Okay.
Josh Hart is the leading rebounder in the NBA for guards. Josh Hart is probably as good a rebounding guard that you'll ever find. Right? The guy's like an 8+ rebound per game guy from the guard position. He guards your best position. He guards your best perimeter and wing guys. And let's be clear about Josh Hart. He's coming to his own on the playoffs. Josh Hart was a guy coming off the bench, though, P.
Right.
Like he's coming into his own, but like minus the injuries, Josh Hart was a guy coming off your bench, right?
Right.
I mean, the Knicks gave him a new deal to $91 million, well deserved, but he's an elite rebounder. He has an NBA skill, elite rebounder, great locker room guy, really good leadership, plays hard, and he was a bench guy. You talking about this guy as a starter.
Josh Hart starts now.
I mean, he starts now, Pate, based upon people being injured, though, bro. But that's not what, like, if you have Josh Hart in an ideal role, it would probably be Josh Hart as your sixth man. That's how the Knicks had him. But he'll start now. But P, he's an elite rebounding guard. He gives you so many more possessions offensively, rebounding-wise.
What leads to being a great rebounder? Aggressiveness, a mindset, right? That's
so what is your guy great at? Bum juice that you talking about is so good as a two guard.
Bro, he's a young guard, man. He's young. He's coming into his own. He's young, but he shows the ability to compete on the level. He's athletic enough at the two guard position to compete with anybody athletically, right? He needs to become a better perimeter shooter. I'm not saying he's the second cut. I'm not even saying the kid is good as a Cam Thomas from Brooklyn. I'm not saying that, but I just like his.
Hold on. I gotta look at what he averaged this year. Okay. I gotta look at the stats, bro. Come on, bro. Yo, P. This brother, averaged 15 points a game, bro. Yo, come on, man. Like you said, you like what they're doing.
Yo, I'm not saying he a star.
Let me just be clear. RJ Barrett, when he was like the fourth best player on the Knicks, was averaging 19 points a game. Like, bro, the guys at 15 points, like when you talking about you like what they're doing, you got one guy, and by the way, on a bum team, somebody got to score. You got one guy averaging 15 points a game who you feels like is nice. You got another guy averaging 22 points a game as your number one guy. And you got Durant, who I like because he plays defense and he's a big guy. But P, come on, P. You can't and they broke the record for the most consecutive losses in NBA history. You're the only person in the world who says, I like what they're doing. Like, bro.
I like looking at things from the bottom and going up. I like the foundation.
Well, we just said they're all the way at the bottom. So Monty Williams, another coach. And by the way, here you go again. You paid him $78.5 million. Even if he got it right in 4 years, look all the money you wasted. You spent 4 years paying this guy, and most of those years your team's terrible.
He was overpaid. I don't know. I mean, obviously he had success in Phoenix.
And never won in Phoenix.
And he had a very disastrous game 7 where they got blown off the mat. They got disrespected in the back.
They lost by like 40.
Oh yeah, that was a game 7. So that was a bad. I'm not saying it was a bad hire. They way overpaid him. Way overpaid him.
Yeah. So P, Spoelstra's overpaid. And don't tell me about repaying you for what you did in the past. Right. And by the way, for the past, Riley brought in LeBron and Chris Bosh, and he did a decent job, but you had that. When that hasn't been there, you got no rings with Spoelstra. So he doesn't deserve to be a $120 million guy. And by the way, the guy who I feel like is the best coach in the NBA, hopefully he gets his $100 million, is Tyronn Lue. And the Clippers better give him his money because the Lakers would take him in 1 second, right? So he's about to be another $100 million guy.
He's very good.
To me, he's the best. But anyway, P, I'm glad we talked about all these coaches. I wanted to touch upon that topic of coaches being overpaid, P. But as a sidebar, you out of your mind talking about you like what they're doing in Detroit, bro. I'm going to keep it about.
We'll see. Listen, this probably debate will be decided in about 3 years. We'll see. Everything got a starting point. Everything got a starting point.
All right, P. So we're going to great basketball talk. We're going to switch up a little bit. So on the show, we do quite often something what we call verses, and in our verses, we compare two different entities, right? It could be Drake versus Kendrick Lamar, right? Actually, as you know, the beef that's going on. It could be anything, right? And P. So let's kick it off right now. We're going to kick it off with the NBA versus. So Shaq, to me, is the most sensitive player in NBA history, right? The most insecure, sensitive player in NBA history.
Right.
You can't say nothing bad about him. If you talk about him, you don't have G4 qualifications. You got to be a top 10 player ever to play. It's the dumbest thing I've ever heard before, right? So we talk about Shaq. And then he says, so he got into this big beef recently with Sharp. And by the way, P, we'll talk about this another time, right? But the TNT show may be over, as you know it, right? Because the NBA may sell it.
To Amazon. Mm-hmm.
No. To NBC, right? NBC may get the
Oh,
deal
you get
down.
it back? Okay.
But,
Gotcha.
that's for another day.
Okay.
So then Shaq, Shannon Sharp made a statement, which I think Shannon Sharp was a bit out of line, right? Because when Skip Bayless said that he was overrated and Tom Brady was better, he went crazy. I wasn't a bum. And then he did Shaq.
You gonna talk to me?
Yeah. And then he dissed Shaq and he says, "Oh, Shaq is jealous of Jokic." Now, so Shannon Sharp was out of line, right?
Mhm.
Because when somebody said that about him, right, he was the most sensitive person you ever seen before. Okay.
Absolutely.
That being said, Shaq then commented and Shaq said, "Hey, I'm gonna keep on being who I am, the most dominant big man ever." Okay.
Right.
And then it got me to thinking, Pete, to this versus right now. Who was a more dominant, feared big man in the NBA? Shaq or Wilt the Stilt Chamberlain?
Okay. So here's my thinking about that. You can only play who's in front of you.
Uh-huh.
If you look at Wilt numbers, nobody has ever had the offensive and rebounding and block numbers as Wilt. Wilt was just physically more dominant than anybody else in his era. I mean, he was averaging 50 and 25 rebounds. It was a joke. Now, he had nobody physically to match up with him other than the great Bill Russell, but that's not Wilt's fault. Shaq was a physically dominant guy and had a nice 4 to 5 year run where he was unbelievably dominant and won 3 championships. But there was also times Shaq left a lot on the table. Those early LA years when they used to get swept when Dale Harris was the coach, and you look and wonder, like, how did Shaq get swept by the Utah Jazz and other teams? I think Shaq physically, when you look at him from a physical perspective, his ability to move, his size, his physical dominance, he dominated more big men than Wilt Chamberlain did. But when you look at that,
well, hold on, Pete. Physical perspective, though, Wilt Chamberlain physically was more athletic than Shaq.
yeah,
He won the long jump in high school, state champion. The guy could run like a deer. The guy could touch the top of the backboard. The guy for his era was bigger and stronger than everybody else. So he was also physically more talented than Shaq. You could argue. Shaq
was just more physically dominant in a physically dominant era. I mean, he was the biggest of the big.
So let me say this:
big, with nobody else being big. But that's not Wilt's fault, right?
So let me say this. Oh, go ahead, Peter.
I'm just saying, you look at Wilt's numbers, no one's going to have dominant numbers ever again like Wilt Chamberlain. So when you're talking about dominating his time, no one's ever going to dominate the game like Wilt Chamberlain dominated his time. No one.
Tell Shaq to go sit down somewhere. That's the answer. It's not even close. Wilt Chamberlain is by far the most dominant big man ever. Scored 100 points in the game. Okay, P. Averaged 50 points a game 1 year. Averaged, I believe, was 30 rebounds a game 1 season. The guy at one point, I believe, led the NBA in assists, I believe it was 1 year. The guy was, Pate, the most dominant and feared force ever to touch a basketball. Shaq, while we acknowledge Shaq was great, insecure as can be, Shaq was great. Shaq never reached the level of dominance that he should have reached, number one, because like Sharp said, Shaq wasn't always in shape. I mean, listen, that's why him and Kobe had the issue, okay?
Right.
But that aside, you're right, Shaq had a few dominant years where you had to say, yo, Shaq was dominant, but come on, bro. Wilt Chamberlain's numbers are out of this world.
Yeah, you're not gonna know. I don't. We could look at it like this. I don't think no individual has dominated their sport like Wilt Chamberlain dominated basketball.
No. You can't say that, bro. No, you can't say that. Stop.
From averaging, like what comparison would that be? I mean, you got a guy averaging 55 points and 25 rebounds. Like, there was never a quarterback that averaged 7 touchdowns a game or something like that.
Brady got the most rings ever, bro. You got to look at a guy like Brady. You got to look at, hold on. And then it depends on what you said. Are you just talking about individual dominance?
Yeah, individual dominance, yeah.
Okay, because let me say this. Rafael Nadal, but this is not in all things, right? But Rafael Nadal at one point was 88-2 at the French Open, and now I think he has 112-3 in his career at the French Open. But that's not in all of tennis, right? But he's dominated that tournament. But again, you're talking about in all of a sport, so it's hard to bring that up. But Pete, I'm not sure I'm willing to go out on that limb. What Gretzky did on the hockey rink was unbelievable, and so
like Ruth was at his time. Nobody did what Drew did. He was hitting more home
Ty
runs.
Cobb as a Cy Young, I believe it was P. I think the amount of games that he won as a pitcher, I think he won over 500 games. It was some crazy number that you look at it and you're like, that's not even remotely touchable, right? What he did, especially in today's era where guys to get to 300 wins as a pitcher today is unbelievable. And what Cy Young did, I want to get the numbers, was unbelievable, right? So somebody may score 100 points.
Right. But I don't know about averaging 50 multiple years. I mean, that's not going to happen in basketball anymore.
I want to look at the Cy Young thing. So, okay, P, that's what I was thought. So Cy Young have 511 wins. Mm-hmm. Think about that now. With today's pitching, okay? With guys pitching every 5 days, sometime even 6 days. If a guy gets to 300 in today's era, P, that's massively big. Is that fair?
Yeah. The guys aren't even pitching the whole game. So you got a lot of these games, and again, I'm not a baseball aficionado, but I do know a lot of these pitchers only pitch up to the 6th inning.
Well, but I think 6 2/3 gets you the win.
Okay.
But the point is the best pitchers to get to 300 is a reach now, right? Cy Young have 511. So I'm not sure I'm willing to say, to me is the most insurmountable record ever. A pitcher winning 511 games, that's more insurmountable than Wilt's 100 points per game, to me. So I'm not sure I'm willing to say that, but Wilt over Shaq. Let me go to the next.
Yeah, Wilt is definitely.
Let me go to the next one.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, we're gonna switch gears a little bit. Let's talk a little football with the draft just happening right now. We got some voluntary OTAs. Football is happening a little bit now. It's early, but it's starting. Okay, Caleb Williams or Jaden Daniels. Caleb Williams, number 1 pick for the Chicago Bears from out of USC. Well, USC by way of Oklahoma first, or Jaden Daniels, the Cy Young Award win. That's not Cy Young. Excuse me, the Heisman. The Heisman, best football player in the world, right? Last year, college football player, won the Heisman, right? Went to LSU, now got drafted by the Washington Commanders. P, who you got?
I think, you got to look at history with that. I think Caleb was unbelievable talent. Chicago has never had a great quarterback. A lot of it has to do with who they picked. I think a lot of it has to do with just the climate and the weather. It's probably really hard to throw there during the winter months. You look at Jaden Daniels. I think the Commanders, from an offensive perspective, put more offensive gurus around him. I think he's going to be a more offensive-friendly system to put.
No, P. Right now, Caleb Williams has a better offensive groove. He got Swift, great running backs. They got DJ Moore. They picked up Rome, the kid from Washington. They got.
Their head coach is a defensive guy. I don't know what their offensive coordinator is, how offensive they look. I know the system.
But they got the best weapons though.
They got a lot. They got Keaton. They got the wide receiver from San Diego to come over. He's a little long in the tooth. Yeah. I mean, Caleb was an unbelievable talent. I mean, he's better.
And by the way, let's not. So who you taking?
I think I'm gonna go with Jalen Daniels. I think he's a little taller. I think he's more in an offensive friendly system. I mean, football is so dependent. It's so dependent, right? You got to be in the right system. You got to have the right offensive line. You got to have the right weapons. I think
the Commanders don't have any of that. They got no offensive line, mediocre weapons. Like, if you look at it in terms of who got better weapons, it's definitely Caleb Williams.
I forgot the coach's name. Who's the guru that used to coach, obviously, the Cardinals? Remember, he was at Texas Tech, and then he went to Arizona Cardinals, and then he was an advisor with USC.
Yeah. Oh, shoot. His name will come to me. The young dude, kid. He coached Pat Mahomes in college.
Right. He's the offensive coordinator for
Cliff Kingsbury, I think his name is.
Yeah, there you go. He's the offensive coordinator.
But Pete, is Jaden Daniels RJ3 all over again? Can you win with a guy that's running like that? I mean,
I don't think Jalen Daniels is that much of I don't think he depends on his legs as much as RG3.
What do you mean? He ran for 1,000 yards in college last year.
Nah, he's more of a thrower. He
ran for 1,000 yards from the quarterback position, bro. What do you mean?
Yeah,
1,000 yards, Pate, in a season in college?
That's a lot.
No, of course it is.
But I watched him at Arizona State, and he didn't play that way. He played more in the pocket and threw it a little more.
I don't understand you guys, bro. And I'm saying you guys because I'm including you, right? Everybody has like amnesia, Okay. So he was a decent quarterback at Arizona State, right? Got into the right system at LSU, played great, had a Heisman year. He played great, right? Let me not take that from him. With an embarrassment of riches, right? Look at his run, his wide receivers, like great, and he did a great job. But let's not forget, right? Before last year, we were talking about Caleb Williams being Patrick Mahomes.
Yes.
When we watched him in Oklahoma, and then we watched his first year at USC, he was literally, people was comparing him to Patrick Mahomes. Yes. Now he has 1 year where he has no offensive line and no defense. Pat said they were losing games 50-something to 45.
They lost that bowl game when he was a sophomore. They lost to Tulane 45-42. I knew that was the beginning.
I mean, and so with no offensive line and no defense, right? I mean, and we already know Lincoln Riley. That's an issue, right? Lincoln Riley teams play no defense.
Right.
It's shootout time.
Right.
And so Caleb Williams, he the same guy.
I'm not saying that's not what Go ahead.
Let's not forget about that when people are like, oh, Jaden Daniels is gonna be better. And let's not be the flavor of the month guy. Right? Caleb Williams was a top kid in high school, right? He took Spencer Rattler's job in Oklahoma, and he was very good. Spencer Rattler was number one in high school too, had a very good freshman year at Oklahoma. This kid was so good, took his job, led him to the championship, I believe it was, or led him far in the playoffs.
Yeah.
Then he went to USC first year and was phenomenal.
No,
and then last year, there's a little drop off because of personnel and what's happening around him.
And I'm not being flavored a moment. If Caleb Williams would have went to any other team, I would have put him number one. Chicago, if you look at they've never had a good quarterback. They struggled from that position from the 80s. They tried. Right.
But that's bad drafting, Pete.
Well, the person had the talent for whatever variety of different reasons. A quarterback has never, in our lifetime, there's never been an offensively driven quarterback that popped in Chicago.
Well, okay.
In our lifetime, there's never been a guy that put up numbers.
McMahon was good, not great. McMahon was decent. But Pate, hold on. But Pate, is that a product of drafting? Give me an example of a guy that was a can't miss person that went there and didn't pan out. Jay Cutler, we already saw he was mentally weak. He had the skills, but Jay Cutler was he wasn't there mentally. He was a bonehead.
40 years. I'm not saying it's going to be Caleb's fault. Caleb Williams is a talented player. His arm talent is unbelievable. That organization has not produced high quality quarterback play since I've been alive.
But Pete, that's a product of who you drafted and how you put teams together. Like you said, systems. There's a new GM. There's a new offensive coordinator coming in. Matt Eberflus, whatever I believe is his name. Eberflus is the head coach, maybe a defensive guy, but he's bringing in good offensive people. They've surrounded offensive linemen. They brought some guys in, great receivers. You talked about Keenan Allen, right? Keenan Allen, very, very good play. They brought him in from the Chargers as well.
Chargers, right.
Man, what they've given him is great players. Hopefully the system is great. And you're right, it's cold in Chicago. It's hard to throw through that wind. Caleb is a guy that's coming from USC, grew up in Maryland though, right? So, but he's not a cold climate guy. It can get cold in Oklahoma where he played there his first year in college. But P, that guy to me is absolutely better than Jaden Daniels.
He's a better talent. Yeah, he's unbelievable. He's a
generation. Don't be the flavor of the month guy, P. Come on, P.
You asked me who's going to have a better season, who's going to play better.
I didn't say that. I said who's a better player.
I thought it was going to have a better season. I mean, Caleb was
talking about career though, P. I mean, anybody can have a good season. He's not be very good.
I don't trust that organization. I mean, that organization made a lot of people look bad. So hopefully he breaks the chain. But going back,
when you make that statement, you got to give me examples of guys who were big name projects. Guys who were big name players. They ended up not panning out. I don't think any of those guys were that, right? I mean, they brought in some guys. They brought in guys like Jay Cutler. They brought in a kid from North Carolina. I forgot his name, but he's a perennial backup now, right?
Oh, Mr. Trubisky.
Steelers last year.
Yeah, Mr. Trubisky.
Yeah, Mr. Trubisky, but he never really played at North Carolina very much. Right. I don't know that they've brought in a quarterback who had all of this promise and potential who didn't pan out. So I think you're right. We haven't seen that, but I think that's
they just let him go.
Who?
They thought Justin Fields was going to change the game.
But P, but
They just had it.
the
They
jury
just
was
had
always
it.
out on him, and the
No,
jury still. But
he
he's not good enough.
out of school. He was the man. He
He's
was
not
number
good enough.
one. He was the same thing you said about Caleb Williams. He was a number one player. He was the number one player in high school. He went to Georgia. He got jerked. He went to Ohio State.
Hold on. He couldn't get the job at Georgia. Did he get jerked? We don't know.
He got jerked. Kirby loved Jake Fromm and let Jake Fromm be the incumbent because Jake Fromm won as a freshman. He should have never went to Georgia to try to replace a guy that won a national championship the year before. That's neither here or there. Literally, the guy you talking about, they just had him in the building. They just had a generational throwing guy.
Come on.
I'm talking about athletically, like what they thought he would be. Great athlete, big, strong arm. You forget how good Justin Fields was at Ohio State, bro.
A lot of guys are good college quarterbacks who are not great pros, though. Nobody thought Justin Fields was a short shot guy. Nobody looked at Justin Fields and said, "Yo, this is a surefire guy." Like, I'll give you an example. I hate to say this, but what's the quarterback from the Jacksonville Jaguars?
Trevor Lawrence?
Yes. When he came out, same thing. Him and Justin Fields, same class. He went to Clemson. When he came out, he was a guy that everybody said, number one pick. He looked like what an NBA quarterback.
Yeah, he was like how John Elway was. He was like anointed.
What he's supposed to look like. I mean, when Fields came out, right, he was a guy that you say you hope he becomes what he becomes a good player. Like, but no one felt like he was.
I think it's closer than what you. I mean, I live in Georgia now. Justin Fields was the guy. He was the number one player in the country.
Yeah, but everybody's a guy in their state. What does that mean? Because he was a guy in Georgia.
You forgetting. Our guy to Jacksonville Lawrence is in Georgia too.
But Pate, I understand what you're saying.
Outbeat him.
But everybody's a guy. Everybody's a guy in their state. Spencer Rattler was one of the highest. It was the best quarterback in the history of the state of Arizona.
I'm saying Justin Fields and Trevor Lawrence, same year, same state.
And Lawrence is number one in that class.
No, Fields is number one.
How much you want to bet that's not true?
Well, if you look at I don't know.
How much you want to bet?
ESPN 300 had Justin Fields the number one player in the country.
No, they didn't.
Yes, they did.
No, they didn't.
I guarantee you, they had him.
No, they didn't. Yes, Trevor Lawrence ended that class number one. Fields was number one first. It changed later. The number one player in that class ended up being Lawrence. It was not Fields.
Bro. When it was the last week?
It was not Fields. At the end of that class, like I said, we could put a stack on that. Just let me know if you want to put some money on that. When it was at the end, Lawrence was But anyway, Pete, let's get to the next one.
Yes,
I like when the verses get hot like that and the money is on the wood, maybe. Woo! I like that, P. So, P, I got one. So it's a big debate, okay, as it relates to the NBA, right? Bum Grant Hill, right? Soft boy Grant Hill, good player, Duke, right? Ended up not being the NBA player that he was supposed to be. Is running USA basketball. He's became the new guy, okay? Put the team together. They chose Halliburton over Brunson. And it's crazy because Halliburton, it's funny, he had to run at the right time. They had the midseason tournament, right? They were playing good. He was throwing up all those crazy threes. But anyway, they chose him for Team USA and not Brunson. And both guys were kind of vying for the opportunity, fighting for the position, young point guards in the NBA. Okay. So we got Halliburton versus Brunson. P. Halliburton, who's going to be on the Olympic team. Brunson, who got omitted from that Olympic team. Who's better, P? Who should have gotten that nod, number one?
Jalen Brunson should have got. Jalen Brunson is better. Jalen Brunson is a better player. He's consistently better. He's just a better player. I mean, I like Halliburton. I mean, he's a great player, good facilitator. He knows how to move the ball. But in today's NBA, the way the game is played, how it's played, Jalen Brunson is the prototypical guy that you would look at and say, this is what I want my point guard to do.
Well, no, I don't know about that. He's not
what I'm saying. What I mean is I want him to be able to get in the lane. I want him to be a proficient three-point shooter. I want him to be a high mid-range guy. I want him to be, shoot foul shots over 80%.
Pete, I don't know about that. He's not the prototype. That's wrong.
What's the prototype? The prototype, your scoring comes from your point guard now.
Yeah, but the prototype, but Jalen, but the prototype is not a guy who's posting up, who's a mid-range guy. He's an okay three-point shooter. He's very unathletic.
But maybe I just talk about offensive production.
Not a great passer.
What he looks like. Not what he looks like.
He's a very unique player in a sense, right? Like the
You
way
know,
he plays.
you know what he played like?
Who?
Play like you.
Yeah, he did play a little bit like me. I mean,
He played like
yeah,
you.
that's
Because you
fair.
was a massive getting to your spot.
Get
I
to
mean,
my
we didn't
spot,
shoot.
lefty,
We didn't shoot
lefty.
the proliferation of threes back then. I mean, you could shoot, but I don't remember you shooting 10 threes. But you was a master of taking your time, getting to your spot, taking advantage of smaller guards, being a little quicker than bigger guards, and just being a shot maker, right? So I
Yeah,
think
that's
when I look,
fair.
he plays like you. He's a little bit of what you would call a Sam Cassell on steroids, right? Sam was never physically dominant over any point guard, but Sam always got to his spot, made big
Right.
shots, knocked down shots. Now he's obviously better than Sam Cassell, but I'm just saying,
So are you taking him over Brunson? I mean, excuse me, over Halliburton.
I will. Yes, I think he's a better player. I like Tyrese Halliburton, but I think Jalen Brunson is a better player.
So just so I'm taking Halliburton over him Brunson over Halliburton all day. Halliburton is overrated to me. You're a good player. You like all that funny 3-point shooting garbage with the weird form, and it's cute.
Mm-hmm.
And listen, Brunson this year is like 4 or 5 in the MVP vote. Right? I mean, the guy's playing at an MVP level, in terms of basketball. The guy is carrying a team. Man, to me, that's not even a close conversation. And Grant Hill and Team USA got it absolutely wrong. Jalen Brunson should have absolutely been on that U.S. team. He deserved to be on it. Shame on you, Team USA. And P, the man is in New York. Big market guy. You talk about big market. You take a guy in Indiana over a guy in New York who's better? Yo,
right.
Come on.
I don't get that. Yeah, they made a mistake.
Stop.
Unless they wanted to get. Now he is what you call today's game the typical facilitator. He get the ball popping, he get it moving, and maybe that's what he wanted for Team USA. He's not a better player than Brunson, but maybe that's what Grant wanted on that team with all that offensive talent.
Yo, B, you ain't got facilitators. LeBron James is a facilitator, bro. Brunson should have been on that team. I'm sorry, P. Yo, Brunson should have been in that team. So Brunson should have been in that team. And like I said, he's in New York, big market. Oh, man, he's doing this thing, MVP level. By the way, so Brunson, show him. If Brunson beats Indiana, he's clearly outplayed Halliburton. If Brunson wins the series, that's an emphatic him telling Team USA, the Olympic team, and Grant Hill, you got it wrong. And the sad part about it is you have to wait 4 more years now for the opportunity, P.
Yes, yeah. They got it wrong. They got it wrong for sure.
4 more years, P. 4 more years. So, all right, P. Well, listen, man. It's always good, my brother, to have you on the show. We got to do it more often. I think we touched upon a lot of stuff, man, a lot of good stuff. I still can't believe you like what the Detroit Pistons are doing, P. But
stop, see, this is what I'm saying. If you post this, don't. I said I like the building blocks of what they do.
You said you like what they're doing,
and I explained why. I think they got a decent, developing backcourt, a nice foundation in the middle. They got a lot of pieces to do. They got a lot of draft capital. They got a lot of cap room. They starting off on the right direction.
Cap room didn't matter. Nobody ain't going to play there. The guy they talking about trying to get is Tobias Harris.
God,
like Mr. Overrated himself. That's the guy that they're trying to get is Tobias Harris. But by the way, P, I just want to make sure, on the record, you said you like what they're doing. The team that had the worst record in the NBA this year and broke the record for the most consecutive losses ever. But I'm glad you like what they're doing, P.
Yes, I like it. There's nothing but up.
Yeah, you're right about that. All right, P. Well, listen, man.
All right, brother.
Great to have you on. We'll do it again soon. Everybody, like, subscribe, show love. We're going to keep going. We the best out. We out.
Peace.